Hey everybody, Jeppy here, and welcome to Finka's operator lore video. This one is going to be a hefty one, as there is actually an insane amount of lore surrounding Finka, and especially how it intertwines with other operators on Team Rainbow as well. I think starting off with a quote coming from Finka herself would be a great way to kick off this banger of a video. Quote, "Being afraid of a disease is sometimes worse than the disease itself. There is no cure for fear, so either you surrender to it or you fight it until one of you wins." End quote from Finka. Okay guys, so let's start things off as we always do with where and when Finka was born. So Finka's real name was actually Lera Melnikova, and she was born on June 7th in the city of Chernobyl, Belarus. A couple things real quick. Anyone here watching share a birthday with Finka? And I actually had no idea that Belarus was a country until researching for this video. Pretty cool. Well, unfortunately for Finka, the location of her hometown would be the very thing that will torture her for the rest of her life. So, the city of Chernobyl was pretty close to the events of the Chernobyl nuclear disaster that happened in the year 1986. I feel like everyone should know what Chernobyl is, but if you don't, here's a quick summary. Chernobyl is actually the name of a city, and there was once a nuclear power plant located in that city. Due to poor maintenance and equipment, one of the reactors overheated and burst, leaking radiation for miles and miles away. Actually, about 16.8 miles is the affected radius of Chernobyl. Now, with the radiation fallout reaching across other local towns, some civilians became extremely sick or had life-altering diseases or disfigurements due to the radiation. One of them being Lera Melnikova herself. Finka was born only 3 years after the Chernobyl incident, and the city she was raised in still had dangerous levels of radiation. Lera and her two younger siblings grew up around children already suffering from these extreme birth defects. Something was just not right with Finka as she was growing up. Her family brought her to their doctor when she was just 9 years old, and she was diagnosed with an awful disease called neuropathy. It's the slow degeneration of muscles and the loss of sensation in the limbs. Now, it's unclear if her two younger siblings had neuropathy too, but Finka's was, well, pretty bad. So her parents encouraged her to be as physically active as she possibly can be. This diagnosis was the realization of her fears, so she would push herself harder and harder to be in peak physical shape. She thought to herself that if she stayed strong and healthy, that her disease would progress slower. All three of the Melnikova children played sports in school. Lera played and excelled in almost every sport out there. It's also worth mentioning that Sam Fisher himself knew Finka when she was a little girl. That's because he was an associate of Finka's father, so he'd be over their house pretty frequently. It's funny because Finka actually performed a part of the psychological evaluation for Zero when he joined Team Rainbow. I thought that was kind of cool. I have a good Zero lore video if you want to check that out. Link in the description. But Finka thought that the fact she would slowly lose control of her life would constantly eat at her. Eventually, her disease will worsen to a state where she won't be able to do the things a normal person can, unless she found a more permanent solution. Since no one was able to help her, well, she'll just have to help herself then. Lera left her hometown and moved to the city of Novosibirsk, sorry, that's a hard one, guys, to study cytology and genetics at the state university. She graduated with a freaking PhD in microbiology and immunology. Finka was becoming a genius, and it was all fueled with the ultimate goal of finding a cure for herself. She remained at the university after graduating, working in the biotechnology and the virology laboratory. Finka was unable to find a cure for her disease, but was able to keep herself in remission with her treatments. Her work of pathogens and neuropathy treatments would begin to be published and started gaining recognition from other physicians literally around the world. She was approached by an agent working with the Federal Security Service of the Russian Federation. He explains that Russian Spetsnaz units were undergoing increasing threats of exposure to hazardous materials, including organophosphorus agents like VX gas. Finka came to the realization that her intelligence was actually helping other people instead of just herself. She was receiving postcards of families sending their gratitude for her using her treatments, and for the first time in her life, Lera began thinking outside of her own concerns. Her treatments were saving lives of complete strangers. The Spetsnaz volunteers gladly accepted Lera when she wanted to join. Finka adapted the nanobots she developed to also give performance enhancing abilities on top of their medical benefits. Finka enjoyed the feeling of camaraderie of the other soldiers and wanted to enlist into the Russian army in hopes of becoming a Red Beret. She dreamed of being on the front lines saving lives as a seaburn specialist. Serving in the army proved to Finka that if she worked hard enough, she could outperform others even with her disease. She really wanted to join the Spetsnaz so badly. It's a brutal course, as with all advanced military divisions like that, but Finka was about to have something horrific happen to her that would stick with her for the rest of her life. Now, Finka was training and sparring in close-quarter knife combat while training for the Spetsnaz with none other than Kapkan himself. Everything was going well until Kapkan accidentally lost his footing and slipped. But as he was falling, the knife in his hand slashed Finka across her face. Blood came pouring out of her, as the head is such a vascular area. Seriously, I've been on so many head injuries in my career, and man, when they get cut, it's just copious amounts of blood. Well, Finka instantly burst into a rage at Kapkan for cutting her face open and literally beat the crap out of him. With each intense punch on Kapkan's face and body, she broke a few ribs and even his nose. She was only stopped when the pain of her now cut open face was too much to ignore. They were both sent to the medical tent for a while. They were up all night but didn't speak a word to each other. But that night, Finka gained a true great friend and now an unspoken level of respect for her mentor, Kapkan. From that day onward, Lera earned her nickname Finka, which means a type of knife in Russian. Lera completed Spetsnaz training and was shifted to the Seaburn unit as a specialist. Her work in fine-tuning the nanobots she develops to be oriented to a specific operator was extremely vital to her allies in the hot zones of disasters or attacks. She was asked if she could rewrite Russian protocols when dealing with these threats, and since she got along very well with other operators, she was the leader in collaborating with other CTUs. In 2018, the original 6, Are Really or Not, asked if Lera would like to join Team Rainbow to elevate her expertise and work in nanotechnology on an international scale. Of course, she said yes, but also asked if Arnott would let her friend Olivier Flament be recruited as well. The reason why is she worked with him very closely in the 2015 Ebola outbreak in Africa, where Finka's Seaburn unit was deployed to aid the sick and dying in the area. We all know what happened between Finka and Doc on that mission that leaves Doc with a grudge for Lion to this day. But we're here to talk about Finka, so if you want to learn more about Doc and Lion, I have a really good Lion lore video and a pretty old but still great Doc lore video as well. Hope you enjoyed them. Anyways, that's how Finka and Lion were recruited into Team Rainbow. Now, the psychological evaluation that needs to be done on all new recruits into Team Rainbow was performed by Dr. Harish Vapande, or better known to us as Harry. This was done when he was Rainbow Psychiatrist, when Really or Not was the leader of Team Rainbow. Obviously, he's the 6th of Rainbow now though. Now let's listen in as we hear what Harry had to say about Finka after their meeting. Quote, "Specialist Lera Melnikova has a dynamic personality that often takes a back seat in past reports because of her chronic illness. It's a shame. From the moment she entered my office with fresh coffee and croissants for our meeting, her vibrant energy swirled around the room. While Melnikova prefers not to discuss her illness, it's clear that it looms over her every thought. Her fitness tracker constantly sets off reminders, her thermos of water must be kept constantly topped up, and she doesn't like to sit for too long, nor stand. Every movement is a calculation. She isn't fidgety or impatient, but hyper aware of each moment and careful of the needs of her body. Managing her health grounds Melnikova in the here and now. Her process, her rituals have enabled her to achieve a high level of fitness and mental balance. It's the right approach and it works for her. My concern is that she may not be prepared for upsets to her careful orders. So I suggested that while maintaining the concept of a ritual, I'd like her to apply some variations to them. Melnikova's close connection with illnesses provides her with unique insights into how disability or inability affects a person's identity. Her research is driven by her sense of determination, but also guilt. She knows she can't help everyone, and frankly, it's crucial for her state of mind that she not lose sight of this. We're only human after all. Her deep bonds with the Russian Special Forces members and her Rainbow team push her to be better and to maintain her focus. They understand the extreme level of commitment this requires. Her dedication to them is unwavering, even if they don't always agree on a surface level. What stands out to me is Melnikova's wonderful full laugh. It's a laugh that gets set aside too often when she's focused on her illness. I encouraged her to seek out those unrestrained moments of delight, because her every decision is so carefully constructed. What would benefit her most is the ability to surprise herself." End quote. Signed, Dr. Harishva Haripande, director of Team Rainbow. Real quick, guys, I know a lot of you are waiting to hear about how Finka's adrenal surge works in the gadget evaluation, but I just have a few more things about her lore I need to talk about before we get to that part of the evaluation. In 2018, there was a meteor that fell from outer space that landed in the Truth and Consequences, New Mexico City. The new townspeople started getting really sick from the alien pathogen, which in turn infected them into aggressive alien creatures. Team Rainbow was deployed to evaluate and help with the dire situation. Finka and Lion, with their knowledge of pathogens, helped clear out hot zones and think of ways to not only help the people there, but rid the area of pathogens as well. Obviously, that didn't work, because coming later this year is Rainbow Six Extraction, where the pathogen is spreading around the world. But it was for the meantime contained at Ground Zero from Team Rainbow. Now in 2020, Finka's old friend and mentor as well, Sam Fisher, showed back up into her life when he was accepted as leader of Rainbow's operations staff, and an operator too. When Zero was training, he was amazed with Finka's nanotechnology that helped alleviate some of his arthritis pains, because Zero is in his mid-60s now. Well, he helped coach teams for the 2021 Sixth Invitational Tournament of Champions. Lera was on Team Ash and managed to beat out Team Vigil along the way to the finals against Team Mira. Finka and her adrenal surge to help her team of Ash, Thermite, Dokkaebi, and of course Callie to victory. Obviously, Callie did most of the work with her incredibly aggressive aim and master frame prototype suit, but yeah, Finka won the 2021 Invitational. A really cool moment in her life. Okay guys, now let's get to the gadget evaluation on Finka's adrenal surge nanotechnology. The highly respected and intelligent Dr. Gustav Kiteb, or better known to us as Doc, was the leader of this evaluation. Here's what he had to say, quote, "Many studies on epinephrine, or adrenaline, and other hormones or neurotransmitters are giving us a clearer picture of how our minds and bodies function under extreme stress. Along with advancements in nanomedicine, this field of health research is really at its most exciting. I read Lera's PhD. Her extrapolation of unproven theories about self-propelled fluids and what is now called active matter was far ahead of its time. I suspect she had to pull back into a more respected, older field of study to ensure her dissertation would be accepted. Here, she has no such constraints, so I will expect full and correct terminology from now on." And then a little comment from Finka in the evaluation. She says, "Academia is a hard habit to break. I'll try." And then Doc goes on to say, "As for Lera's neuropathy and her continued research, these results and the attached test plan will certainly provide her with the data she needs for future enhancements. Harry, Elena, Lera, and I have all agreed to have regular discussions to keep up to date on this fast changing field." And then Finka has another comment in the evaluation. "I'm grateful to Doc, Mira, and Harry for being good sounding boards. My research is for us all." And then the evaluation ends, signed Doc. One thing I wanted to go over with you guys is, if you didn't know, on Tachanka's elite skin, he's got a tattoo on there that says Lera. Now, Lera, obviously we know, is Finka after watching this whole video. And I thought that was really cool, because in Tachanka's lore, it says that Lera and Finka are really good friends and go out for drinks all the time. And I'm starting to think, instead of being really good friends, that maybe Tachanka and Finka are actually starting to become, well, romantic. I mean, why else would he have her name and her heart surrounding it? That just doesn't make any sense if they're just friends. Well, everyone, we're all done with Finka's lore. It would mean a lot if you made it this far in the video to leave a like and comment down below. I love Jeppy. Just do it, trust me. Well, guys, subscribe, notifications if you're new. Now, with all that being said, Jeppy!